And a good morning. Welcome inside the bottom line. If you'll look at the bruises on my face, Ford just beat the hell out of me when he came in because I wasn't doing things the way he thought they should be done.
That's awful.
And the lip, you see the lips all popped up, the nose, got a little blood under the eye here. So, you know it happens. The only thing I can tell you is getting old ain't for sissies. Yesterday was somewhat of a long day, as early in the morning I was just walking across the room, and of course I've got neuropathy in my feet, and I've got a really bad left leg and foot. That's where my initial back issues started occurring for me when I was playing ball. Numbness in my left leg, and so it sometimes it can be a little bad. And I was just walking across the room, and I felt my left foot catch nothing here but carpet. And I felt myself falling, and I couldn't stop it. And this was the first thing that hit the floor. And there's about this much carpet on top of the concrete, and it just clobbered my face. And
it's unbelievable.
I've had ice and stuff, and you can hear I talk a little bit weird this morning because I've got my lips are so swollen. But I walked around yesterday and was not embarrassed, as I had toilet paper stuffed up both sides because I just didn't want anything to bleed on anybody.
Why don't you do something for me right now? Say, "Give me a king."
Give me a king.
You work at Barbecue King.
Give me a cheese king. No slaw, pickles, rings, fries.
To stay. I don't
know how they do it.
I'm going to tell you, it's impressive.
No, Mikey, I did not storm the court.
Now that was good.
Richie said, as you said, getting old ain't for wimps. No serious injuries. Nothing other than my feelings and my embarrassment.
Yeah.
I told Ford the biggest reason I'm here today is try to get some of the soreness out. We're planning to go to the beach next week.
Yeah.
And if somebody said, if you don't swing a golf club right now, I'm going to kill you, I just hit my knees and say, go ahead. Just kill me, because I can barely move. The soreness is bad. Hey, G-Man, Milton. And I'm happy. I'm fortunate. It could have been worse. Honestly, if I had hit and my forehead had hit first, could have got a brain bruise or a bleed or anything.
Yeah,
so
it could have been bad, man.
Yes, I'm fortunate. I'm blessed. I'm up and walking. I worked all day yesterday, pissed everybody in my family off, but I had stuff to do. Why aren't you at home to bed? Well, I need to go to bed. I can still function. I'm good. Richie said, did you catch any of the ECU Carolina series over the weekend?
Very good baseball.
Ended up being pretty good early season, big time series for both teams.
Yeah,
ECU won, didn't he? Did they win the series or just one?
They won. I think they won the one, but the Boaz kid that was a quarterback at East Surrey was the first starter at Chapel Hill to be a freshman in like 21 years, and I'm surprised. I'm really glad he's in school and playing and doing things, but I'm surprised that he didn't go ahead and take the next step.
Yeah,
he's that good. And I'm going to tell you this, quarterback-wise, Fogler's only about 6'1". It may have been whatever that means in today's world.
Right.
But his skill set in football was, and his ability to lead, are remarkable. And I'm not shocked that he was the game one starter.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about 2 weeks ago when they had opening weekend, or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was.
Right.
I'm not surprised. I mean, he is that good. He's that much of a competitor, and he comes from a great family. Fortunate enough to be able to follow them on Facebook and friend them when, we played them in football 3 or 4 years ago in the playoffs. And his older brother's a quarterback at Carolina. He's about 6'8", the one that won the state championship at East Surrey several years ago. So they got a whole line of young men that with that family. But was that Richie that said that?
Yeah.
But yeah, great point. Very good college baseball. Very good pitching, very good defense, very good hitting. A lot of potentially future major leaguers on that field.
Mm-hmm.
And we got 2 kids from the area here. Braxton Trammell, who's a senior at Ford. If he ends up going to school, he's been committed to ECU for 2 years. And then Sean Jenkins, who is 93, 94 right now, is a junior at Fred T. Ford. I don't think he'll ever see ECU, but he's been committed for over a year.
Yeah.
So pretty cool stuff.
Are you surprised you talk about East Surrey.
Mm-hmm.
East Surrey's been on a pretty good run in a lot of sports here lately. But are you surprised? That is a small county.
It's a small school, and Mount Airy's right there
Yeah.
with them, who's been on a tremendous run as well. And right down the roads, West Stokes and Elkin, and so Starmount. Surrey County just
Cherryville guy used to be the coach at Starmount.
Yeah, right. And they've had a tremendous run. But what they do there at East Surrey, what Trent does, and Loman, who's the former coach at Bandy's, his dad Randy was there for a long time. They work on development. They develop their kids. They just don't say, "Hey, go out and play." You get better, you get better by playing, but you get refined and really good by training. And Gino, Emma, however you say his last name, that's the coach at Connecticut, UConn women's basketball. He had a great piece that I saw, and I think I reposted on Facebook talking about players. He said, even 10 years ago to today, our players in the United States are so much bigger, stronger, more athletic. He said, but they spend, 1 day a week practicing, and they play like 6 games on a weekend.
Yeah.
He's like, the reason the kids from Europe, when they come over, they're better basketball players, not better athletes, but better basketball players because they practice 6 days and play 1.
Right.
He's like, they can dribble better, they can shoot better, they can pass better, and
their complete skill set's a lot better.
It is,
yeah.
and that's one thing that I think this whole narrative of, well, you need to play as many sports as you can. And I don't disagree with that to an extent. But I do think if you're going to be good at what you do, you have to prepare for that. You just can't. Yeah. It's like if you're going out and giving a speech, Lanny, and you don't practice that speech, but all you do is give speeches, you'll get a little better at that. But if you spend time practicing that speech, you're very likely to go out and do a really good job with it, and then you practice again and go out again instead of just go. And I wasn't really ever convinced of that until COVID hit.
Yeah.
And when I saw average baseball players turn into pretty good baseball players that were average or below average when they were 14, and by the time they were 17, they were something to behold. There's something to it.
Because they had nothing else to do but concentrate on one because everything was shut down.
Yeah, and it kind of proved the other narrative. I wouldn't say wrong, but it kind of narrowed the focus of, if you're serious about this, you can play these other sports like you and I did, but you've got to train or you will be left behind. Let
me give expand on that just a little bit more. Teresa, good morning. Richie said ECU took the series 2-1, won Game 3 with a walk-off single in the 10th.
What it was? Yeah, it was in the 10th, and it was. What was the score? Was it 3-1, 3-2?
They took the series 2-1. I don't know about the score.
Oh, it may have been like 7-8 or something like that.
Yeah. Let me just say this, okay? I have always been a big proponent of multiple sports, okay?
Mm-hmm.
However, I do think there's a time that you specialize, but it was 10-9.
Okay.
You specialize, but you specialize once your body and your skill set has been determined on what you're the best at. Where my problem comes from are the parents and the kids and the teams that want you to start at 11 or 12 in a specific sport and play it 10, 11 months out of the year and not play anything else. You don't know what your game is at that point. Now, I'm sorry.
I've only seen one or two.
Yeah,
honestly.
I mean, you've got to be really exceptional. And usually, if they're that exceptional, they're going to be exceptional at any sport.
Well, Trammell, the kid I was talking about, Braxton, he was that way at 11 and 12. He's the most serious, focused hitter I've ever seen.
Right.
He switch hits at 11 and 12. Now he's, senior in high school, but he's very good, okay? And Sean Jenkins, when he was 11, was that way.
Yeah.
Like he was going. Now Sean could go out and quarterback football teams like Braxton could.
Yeah.
Braxton could play inside linebacker. He could play tight end. He could play fullback. He could play quarterback. It doesn't matter. All right. Guy squats like 500 pounds. I mean, just crazy strength. Okay. Crazy stuff. Sean's the same way. Sean squats like 450. All right. Now these are guys that were pretty much bean poles, and they started developing their bodies. Quinn was not really, very. He was kind of gangly and whatever, and you saw what happened to him over that 4-year period.
Yep.
You get in that weight room 6-7 days a week, and you train, and let me tell you something. there's a difference, Lanny, and I'm a big fan of most kids doing as much as they can as long as they can. But when you have that serious connection and knowing what you want to do, then that may be the route that you need
Very
to
few
take.
kids know what that is at 11, 12 years old.
And it's unfair to say that yeah, to your point, that you should focus on it when you're then.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it this way. I never got any better at any of the sports I played after age 16 because I played football, basketball, high school baseball, or junior high or whatever, and then American Legion ball for 5 years. Every sport overlapped the other one. I never had time to train and rehome my skills. So this is how I did it, and it didn't help me. I would lift weights in the morning, all right, or work, whatever I was doing, before Legion games, work on a little bit of football, go play Legion ball at night. Now, it was only a couple of days a week, so I really wasn't able to do anything. I was working in a meal, too.
Right.
Football season comes around. Well, you're really sore after Friday night. You know, Saturdays and Sunday's the worst day. I'd try to go play pickup basketball somewhere in Morganton, you know, on Saturday or Sunday. That didn't work out a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
So you were never able to get, you know, and then throwing baseballs. Man, sometimes I didn't pick up a baseball till, you know, the end of February when we were done playing basketball. And I'm pitching the next night. You see what I'm saying? I never had a chance to heal my body and get it honed in on a certain thing. And I, you know, was one of the few that was lucky to, I played all three sports at East Burton. We were 4A, and it was tough.
Well, you know,
tough
like
competition.
Because of the position I played, not being a more of the skill positions like you, because I was a fat boy, a lineman.
Yeah.
Played football, and then I wrestled and did track. Well, both of those helped me because of the agility, the movement, and wrestling.
Yeah.
And we
right,
lifted.
Right.
And then in track, I was a weight man. I threw
Well,
shot and
you were
disc,
fine.
and we ran.
You
You
were
know,
fine, yeah.
so you're really
were
training
fine
your
there.
body.
You were then.
But when you're, you know, when you transition from football as a skill position, and then over to basketball, and then over to baseball, you know, that's a lot. I just think that's a whole lot different.
Well, think about this too. To your point, I had to mix in 2 knee surgeries in high school. Now think of it like this, and if Chad's listening, I don't know if he is today,
I hadn't seen him this morning.
but if he can, just follow me on this. At 13 years old, I could dunk a basketball.
Right.
Okay. So I was playing Junior Olympics basketball. Baseball was okay. Football, you know, whatever. I just did it because that was the thing to do in Burke County, right? Be one of the guys. But in basketball, it was really serious. So I'm sitting here pushing 6'2" at 13 years old, about 140 pounds, and jump like a freaking pogo stick.
Yeah.
You know, my dad was a college basketball coach, high school basketball coach. You know, he knows, you know, the things to do and how to increase your – and I worked on it every day. And the problem is I quit growing. Obviously, I hadn't got any taller, taller, right? But I never was able to gain any kind of sustainable weight in high school. That's why – and again, I'm just using personal experience to you know, just prove the point of – your body has to have rest, but it also needs to be able to train a specific area so you don't get injured. All right? So Quinn played high school football. Jacob Sigmund, all right? Then all these guys played multiple sports, sometimes 2 and 3. Jack Hensley, all right? DJ Spring. DJ twisted his ankle through no fault of his own, and he's the only one of those 4 to ever miss a game. DJ was. And he just missed 1 in his whole career.
Yeah.
Of football. They trained those 4 boys, and there's many more of them too. Corbin Lawing, you know, I'm just giving an example of those 4. They train their bodies every day for the grind. Never got hurt, and they played as hard as, and you saw it. They played as hard as, you know, they harder than anybody, you know, just as anybody we had.
Yep.
And that's the point. You got to find that balance, and then a way to exceed from there. So.
Right. And there are things, you know, the other thing that was different when I grew up, because I'm older than you regardless of what your brother thinks. In high school, we had one bench of free weights.
Yeah, right.
And a universal machine. There was no equipment to train
yes,
with. We didn't have it back then, you know. So it was a little bit different, but now being able to specialize, there's multiple places that you can get trainers. There's multiple places that you can get specific position workouts, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, it doesn't matter.
Softball,
volleyball, softball, it doesn't matter. You can find people to help you work on your position that wasn't available.
Right, and it's a different era, right?
Yeah.
You know, back then, you got all your training from working outside.
Right.
Throwing bells up, you know, doing all these things, lifting cardboard boxes in the, you know, that were compressed in the, you know, in the mill. And the world has changed.
Yeah.
You know, it's you know, the thinking and the dynamics and the, you know, back when there was a day in time when if you didn't work, you didn't get a car.
Yeah.
And you didn't have any money to do anything because your mom and dad wasn't giving you nothing.
Right.
Or they didn't have it to give.
Right.
Today, you don't work till you're like 30, okay? You got a cell phone, all right, that mom and dad pay for. They pay for your cars. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. What I'm saying is it's just different. So if you're going to do those things and you don't have access to working and throwing all these things around and developing your body that way, where do you have to go to do it if you're going to be serious? Mm-hmm. You got to get in the weight room and in the training facility, right?
I was fortunate. I was fortunate. I didn't have to pay for the car.
Yeah.
That was only because I was involved in sports.
Yeah.
And then in summer, I had to work every summer.
Right.
But it wasn't something that I worked because I was at school, you know, 5-6 days a week with sports and stuff.
Right.
Now, had I been a kid that didn't play sports, I would have been expected to get a part-time job and help out. Yeah. So I was fortunate.
There was balance.
There was fortunate.
And I was one of those where my grandfather bought a truck for me.
Yeah.
You know, before I turned 16, you know, my mom and dad, you know, were running me all over the county. Chris Cozort, you know, Yates Jensen, the mayor at Rutherford College, Cozort, who just retired from Drawn. You know, Brent Fulbright, all these guys that I grew up with that were older would come pick me up and take me to, you know, because I played ball with them. You know, they're just older. Tim Barroos, they would all, you know, do these things for me. And then, you know, because we lived off the interstate, you know, on Flat Gap Mountain up in the, you know, basically up in the
because I was a bigger boy, the high school kids would come pick me up when I was in like 6th, 7th, and 8th grade and take me to play with them, and we play basketball different places.
Them out, huh?
Yeah, and there was awesome. Because I was as big as they were.
Right.
You know, so I didn't have to worry about transportation for a while.
Man. That's good.
Let me take a break. Come back. We'll do some more here on the Bottom Line.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily, or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with auto owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver or visit mooneyinsurance.com.
Have you thought about when you would like to retire? One of your major assets is planning for retirement is time, and you lose a little of it each day. The longer you wait to start accumulating capital for retirement, the harder it's going to be. How should you plan for retirement? Start by calculating approximately how much capital you will need at retirement, then estimate how much you will have to put away each year. Finally, carefully choose the investments in which you will invest. Stifel Nicholas can assist you. Call Ford Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stifel Nicholas, member SIPC, and the New York Stock Exchange.
And we'll go back. Glad to have you here on a Tuesday morning, and I am disappointed. I got to be honest. We're going to miss winter altogether. It's 52 degrees outside. Talking about some rain, and I'm not ready for that kind of weather.
When's it supposed to rain?
Said about lunchtime today, supposed to be some showers move through and move through tomorrow, and I missed all that yesterday.
Yeah. Okay. I got you. Springtime, no work. Oh, 80% today.
Yeah, but it's only going to be about 2 hours, like from about, or 4 hours, 10 to 2 is the only window for the rain.
Now it's saying 7:30 to, hold on, to 11:20 here. Wait a minute, is that here? That's Mars Hill, sorry. I'm heading up there today. It's going to be 64 up there, though.
Yeah.
God, it's snowing this weekend.
I know.
Watched 2 games in the snow.
We kept wanting to see some snow while we were in Gatlinburg, but we didn't. But you could see it on top of the mountains at the higher elevations.
We drove, me and G, after Quinn hit, excuse me, they took BP that morning. They played 11 and then again at 2, right? Doubleheader on Saturday. So it was pretty cold at like 9. They're out there hitting at 9. So me and G went out and watched them hit, and it was raining, and maybe one snowflake every 10 minutes mixed in. So they got through hitting, and UVA Wise was getting ready to do their hitting on the field. So I said, gee, let's go grab something to eat and head up the road, see what's happening. So we grabbed a biscuit at Bojangles and took off in 7 minutes up the interstate. That's it, 7 minutes. And I did my little elevation tracker, 700 feet. It went from 36 degrees, 700 feet to 32, and the snowflakes were big around as that bottle right there. And next thing I know, we get up to the crest where you get off the exit to go to Wolf Laurel, which is way up there, but you get off here, landing 3 inches of snow. It's cut.
Oh, I know.
It was beautiful, but yet in Mars Hill, which, I mean, that's fine. It's the mountains. That's what it does. But is that much of a difference? So you look at 700 to 1,000 feet. It was the difference between 3 inches of snow and a 36-degree, 37-degree rain.
The forecast up there would change by 2 inches based on every 500 foot of elevation.
Right.
Around Gatlinburg.
And that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean that's
it
just
does that in Newland.
Oh, I know.
Like even at the house right there, that's just a mile outside. There on the golf course when you go up and you climb that hill.
Yep.
Well, that puts us right at 4,000. Dude, I've gone to the house and pulled up there, and there's that much snow still on the ground.
Yeah.
And in Newland, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Or a patch here or a patch there. My driveway's got that much, and just in that little. So for anybody to say, you can't do.
You've never experienced mountains and been places like Boone, places like that, because it changes all the time.
You turn the corner, there it is.
Rich said, after I was out of school, I heard the East Lincoln football coach tell his kids one day that if his team didn't do summer workouts, they were going to get handled by West because they weren't just doing workouts. They were out there working in the fields, throwing the hay bales, pushing cows. They were going to be stronger than you.
Yeah.
And that's where it came from back in the day. Most of those kids came off farms and stuff, so it made quite a difference. Let me catch a couple headlines that's going on for right now. Of course, G can give us all the details, but of course there is an increase in the salary cap, around $40-some million, and I don't think anybody's surprised by that.
He has a complete ranking.
I'm sure he does.
of AFC, NFC, and combinations. He's working on it last night on the computer of where they fall, who they've got to sign, how much money they got left, with the increase in salary cap and what they need to do, and then who it's going to impact as far as being able to keep them or give them an excuse to even offload them even more to bring in a better player just because the increase in salary cap, makes it look more attractive to that person they want to get rid of.
Yeah, yeah.
So he really thinks that J.J. McCarthy might go to the Bucs.
Well, now, I read something yesterday,
really
and he'll know more about this than I do. They're trying to work out a deal with Baker.
And
with
they
the
should.
Bucs.
They should.
If nothing else, just to let him kind of mentor if they do take a J.J. McCarthy.
He's playing at the top of his game. And, now, again, he's Baker.
But what he did, he matured mentally.
He did.
That's the difference.
He improved himself. Like
yes.
he said, you know what, I've gone to these different places, and it's given me an opportunity to improve my situation. But what about myself? What do I need to do
right
that I'm not doing? And sometimes navigation does that. It's like I was telling the boys. I said, listen, I said these NFL guys are no different than kids here or you guys. If the environment is good, all right, then you need to work as hard as you can on yourself and in your improvement and being a great team guy. If the environment is not good, then that's why you should leave and seek another environment.
Yep.
Now, environment means, do I have an opportunity? Do I have opportunities to fail as much as I do succeed here by having that opportunity? And am I going to continue to have the resources to get better?
Yeah.
That's what that means. And is the person that or people that are in charge, do they truly care about me and this place that I'm attending or that I'm at, or is it about them? So if those things line up, then you can get better, right? But if the environment's not good and you're not providing opportunity, then you got to seek elsewhere. Baker did that. He's got a good environment.
Yeah.
And he had a great, a good quarterback coach. But I think it was more about him, Lanny. Him.
Yeah.
And it was impressive.
Let me ask you your feelings about this, and I hadn't talked to Juju about it because, needless to say, I did not want to do anything last night except lay down. Right. Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
I'm hearing rumors that he may be headed to Pittsburgh.
Okay, yeah. So there's a lot of that with Justin Fields and with Wilson, right? Mike Tomlin really likes Justin Fields, but if he gets an opportunity to bring Russell Wilson in to give some dynamic playmaking potential ability instead of just a stagnation that we're seeing.
You think he still got it?
I think he has the intelligence to make it happen. The step, will always, once you reach a certain age, it gets a little slower, but your experience allows you to be quicker than the faster guy that has no experience, right? It's kind of like I sent that ping pong, those two ping pong players, the guy that has a degree versus the guy that's got the experience.
Yep.
And the degree guy's ever just killing himself because he doesn't have any experience.
Right.
And the experienced guy can't, he's old and can't move hardly anything, but he's sitting there doing this, and it's anticipation, right? And I think the Steelers, I don't think they have a leadership issue at all because they have a lot of individual players that are, and they should, they're pro guys, that are self-motivated. So you don't need, when you have a bunch of guys that are internally motivated, you don't need that one guy to go around the locker room and say, you got to do this. They're already doing that. What they got to do is have somebody on the offensive side that is stable, that is focused, that is time-tested, proven, and true, and that can get out there and make things happen by distribution instead of playmaking. And there is a difference. There is a big difference. And Russell Wilson is that guy where every now and then he's going to say, well, wait a minute, I can break contain here in this situation based on what they're doing, and I can potentially get 7 to 8 yards, take a slide, and guess what? We're moving the chains.
Yeah.
And that's an issue for people because the more the offense is on the field, you know how good that defense is. You know how good their defense.
Yep.
T.J. Watt, when Highsmith, I'm telling you,
but they still got to score some points.
That's the thing. That's the point. They won all those games without scoring.
Yeah.
Now what do you do when you got a guy that can put, 12 to 16 more a game on the board?
Yeah.
Now you're talking, potential AFC. Championship, potential AFC championship.
Right.
Instead of just, let's make the playoffs and get our ass beat.
Richie said he would be surprised if they take McCarthy because Arians is big on Michael Penix Jr. Now, G said if they don't re-sign Baker, then they'll have to take a quarterback in the draft. And by quarterback, I don't mean Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah, so G doesn't dislike Penix. He doesn't think from a developmental standpoint. G's biggest issue watching him, which is mine, okay, and he's probably developed this opinion off mine. When your elbow is low when you throw the football, the ball tends to sail.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Lamar Jackson.
It's because it's got to have an upward trend.
It does. I don't care. Like
trajectory.
Vince Young's a great example of that. Lamar Jackson. I'm not being critical. What I'm saying is it makes it very tough to be accurate.
Physical physical mechanics is what you're talking about.
It is. You got to be on top of the ball. Okay, I don't care how athletic you are. That doesn't matter. And he's a great dual threat. I'm hearing that crap on ESPN.
But you still got to be able to complete the passes in a pass-driven league like the NFL.
My thing is, are you a championship quarterback or not?
Yeah.
If you're not, why are you being taken in the first round or very first pick? Why? Why would you do that?
Yep.
Because you need to make a splash, Sonny. Like the movie Draft Day, make a splash. No, man. What you need to do is through process, build things. You can't go against and be successful even one time in something like this. You can't go against the rules of process.
Right.
You can't. You can't. It won't work out over an extended season. It'll work out in one game.
Right.
My athletes are faster than yours. He can run. I don't care how fast a kid is. I want to see how fast he is running the appropriate route. I want to see how fast he is getting his rear end from the classroom to the weight room and working out instead of laying in the training room.
Right.
Okay? That's what I want to see in his speed. All right? Because he can't fully develop his true athleticism that he's been God-given and gifted with until he or she does all the other things that they need to do from a character standpoint, of hard work, dedication, being efficient, and being a great teammate. I was talking to a guy yesterday, head coach in our area, and I said, when you're building your staff and you're building your team, you have to the best player on your team has to be the hardest worker. And if they're not, then you're going to fail. And he said, well, what do you mean by fail? I said, well, if you have the best player in the area and you get beat in the second round, was that a successful season? Was it?
Nope. When
you have other players around you? Other players around him? Why? Because you didn't hold the standard? Well, yeah, but we may have run into this. I said, well, you're worried about stuff you can't control. I'm talking about stuff you can. And this is the great issue in understanding wow versus now, or wow and now versus process, development. It's not about being first. It's about being right.
Yeah.
Because everything's a marathon and not a sprint. If you treat it like a sprint, you're eventually going to run out of gas.
The other thing that I heard yesterday that they were talking about, and I can't remember who reported this, but they said that the framework for a Justin Fields trade was just about put together. They didn't mention who.
Steelers.
But they have the framework to do that. Now, most people feel like Justin Fields needs to go to Atlanta. That's where he would be.
I think that would be a great fit for him.
And the other side of it is because that's a much weaker division than the division that Pittsburgh's in. Now, my thing is, I guess where my problem comes from is I still got to see Pittsburgh change the philosophy some, regards to who they bring in for a quarterback. Because Justin Fields, or Russell Wilson, neither one of them are Terry Bradshaw or Big Ben. And that's the last time the Steelers had a game-changing, franchise-changing quarterback with those two quarterbacks.
Bubby Brister?
No.
Oh.
Now, I will say that, and now I can't think of his real name.
I like Maddox.
Slash.
No,
Tommy Maddox, stop.
I know, I liked him. He was a very good game manager, and a lot what happened to him was like the Bledsoe-Brady thing.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that was wrong, but Maddox was that stability they needed to make the transition, and I think that's what they need now.
I liked Cordell Stewart too, but he wasn't the top of the line.
Right.
But,
he was a lot of
better
fun.
known as Slash.
Was
they've had.
Yeah, I ain't got no problem with those guys, man.
They've had franchise quarterbacks, but not championship-winning franchise quarterbacks, except for Bradshaw and Big Ben.
Well,
and Big Ben, basically, he did it by willing his way through it. You know what I'm saying? Because of his physical attributes. But once those started to deteriorate, the team, there was nothing left there.
You know, I think Ben was able to do it, and I give him a lot of credit, is Jerome Bettis.
Strong running game. John Elway and Terrell Davis.
Oh,
yeah. That's what took them over the top.
He was just
you got to have that component to the game. That's why everybody thought, just like me, that the 49ers would be successful because they had that piece in their repertoire.
You want to go down that rabbit hole for a second?
Sure.
Okay.
I love rabbit holes.
So, and I'm very interested for our viewers on this, okay, and our friends listening. So, especially Coach McCree. I got to see him yesterday for a minute and before I go down the rabbit hole, Lanny Shelton passed away, who coached at Maiden. He was on the 71 state championship team, I believe, and I think he'd already gotten out of it by 78 when they won it again. But Lanny lived in the same neighborhood as Mandy's grandparents for a long time, and when they lived up there in Brookwood. And I've known he was one of the first people I met at Maiden. He and actually Coach Parker was the very first one because I already knew Debbie Long, the principal. And then I think I met Lanny and Richard Coulter and Steve Sims next. But when Butch was showing me around, but Lanny. The one thing I told Brad this yesterday as I walked through the line, I said, you know, your dad, every time I talked to him, he made me feel like that I was the most important person in the world to him. And I said, he just had that effect.
Wasn't a finer human being, I can tell you that.
Yeah, you know, and I really like Brad.
Low key,
just
even keel.
People. Brad's just a wonderful guy too. And I mean, it's heartbreaking, but Lanny, you know, had a really, really good life. You know, he loved golf and loved the community. He was always supportive of all the kids and the coaches.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate that he's passed, but I'm going to tell you what, he was great for this community. He had a great life, and I'm just so glad I got to know him.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was a friend of mine. But, so anyway, so the thing about Shanahan firing Steve Wilks, okay, now, you know, I heard some stuff on ESPN radio over the weekend when G and I were riding around and, you know, ball gaming and all that stuff, watching Quinn or whatever. But what was interesting to me is that Shanahan, he said, I hated to do it, but I just felt like Steve Wilks was the, you know, just not, you know, we weren't being our best with him as the. What happens if they win the Super Bowl? Does he still get fired?
I think he does.
And Dan Patrick, you know, they were. I say Dan, was it Dan? I can't. Well, anyway, that was one of the things. I think it was Dan Patrick. Says, does he still fire him even if they win the Super Bowl? And my thing is this: he's not the one, all right, that called the pass play in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, you know, 8 years ago, all right, that stopped the clock from running another 35 or 40 seconds off, which they needed at the end to win the game.
Right.
Because it's about game management. Now, who is ultimately responsible for game management?
Head coach.
Yeah, and in today's game, the offensive coordinator. And it's sad, but that's where we're going with this. Yep. You know, the game used to be able to be managed by a combination of special teams and defense. Today, it's all about the offense because you got guys that are trying to run 700 plays a game, all right, because it's about their wow factor and their brilliant intelligence instead of a process of taking care of things, making adaptations and doing this. Let me tell you something. If it's Steve Wilks' fault, was it Steve Wilks' fault that Kittle got targeted less than 4 times? Mm-mm. Is it Steve Wilks' fault that Deebo Samuel couldn't get in the game?
But you know,
is it Steve Wilks' fault that the Chiefs were so friggin' smart to make it look like in the first half that they were only focused on shutting McCaffrey down, but yet they gave him enough of a bone where they just keep giving it to him. So they said, you know, if we can concentrate the distribution, which they did to one guy, all right, and this is my thing. I'm going to go down the rabbit hole. How are you a head football – how are you a offensive coordinator, head football coach in the NFL, and you don't have time to look and see what they're doing? How? Okay? How is that even possible that when you continually give it to one guy, keep feeding the horse, he's doing it. That's what they wanted you to do so you wouldn't feed the other two.
Well, but you know, biggest, I mean, when it comes to Steve Wilks, it wasn't about performance and what he did. The way that I saw it was they didn't feel like he fit in culturally, personality-wise, with the other staff.
What does that even mean?
I'm just saying.
That's what he said, but what does that mean?
That means they just needed a reason because they couldn't justify it based on his performance. Because
They're
look
the
what
freaking Super Bowl, and they were hurt.
and they
Their
held
defense
Patrick. They held Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
To some of his
yeah,
lowest.
Well, yeah, but this is what I'm saying. I mean, it's like, if you're not distributing the football on the other side, you want to turn around and say, well, our defense couldn't stop them because well, you know what? Who's the head coach? And he says, well, I'm making a head coaching decision. Dude,
Oh, I
you
know.
had 8 weeks to figure that out before you got in the playoffs because you knew you were going. All right?
They were a top favorite team from the very beginning of the season.
Yes, and they should be.
Now some of it's starting to come back on Shanahan.
And it
is
should.
how many opportunities have you had and can't get there either as a coordinator or a head coach?
And that's fair. That is not an unfair statement. Well, it's hard enough just to get there. Bull crap.
And Richie's
I don't wanna
right.
hear that.
He said he heard there was some rift between Wilkes and Shanahan. Part of that is they're from 2 different generations.
Yeah,
and that's part of it.
But that's how you mold and mend everything together to bring the quality, the stability, and the focus of someone that's in another generation than you are as a head coach, and you incorporate that into your program because when you incorporate different things, it's like it's like diversity in culture. When you incorporate these things, you bring the best of all that together.
Right.
It becomes rock solid. To say that goes against everything that we hear in the world right now about inclusion and doing things like that. And I'm not talking about race. I'm talking about bringing different ideas and cultures in. Okay? That's crazy,
If
man.
you're not willing to listen to somebody that you bring in, you don't need to bring them in. If you're looking for a yes man or somebody that's going to follow kind of what your guidelines are, that's the part that scares me about the Steelers. I'm not sure that Tomlin can get past that point.
Okay, so the thing, but this is the thing. How does Shanahan, other than being a head coach, have a right to say anything to anybody about, well, this ain't good enough? He ain't been there.
Oh, I know.
He hadn't won it.
Yeah.
He's been there.
Yeah.
He hadn't won it.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you sit there and say, well, it's just not? How do you know? You don't know what it takes to be a champion.
Right.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't know. You may have won something in some other league or whatever. We're talking about the NFL.
Right.
And you've got you've got 2 of the 8 better defensive players in the league playing on both ends. Okay, it baffled me.
Yeah.
And I'm not a Panthers fan, but I'm a fan of the Panthers because of what it does locally and because I'm a Steelers fan first. That's okay. All right. When Steve Wilkes didn't get that job, that bothered me, man.
Yeah.
Okay. They're like, hey, do you want to buy PSLs? No, I don't.
Yep.
Not right now. I don't.
Yeah.
When you have a dumpster fire, and you got a big dumpster, and the thing's on fire, and the trees and everything around it, pine trees and all this, do you take a little, like that little thing you got in here, that little fire extinguisher out there, and start hitting it? Or do you bring the fire department in and do that?
Yeah.
Well, basically what's happening is with all these dumpster fires going in, we're bringing little extinguishers in hoping that they'll produce a big, foam.
Right.
All right. Instead of bringing the fire department in, all right, which are the best that are out there available. All right. How about the Falcons?
You can't.
How about the Falcons? Well, we didn't want Belichick to come in because he might get rid of everybody.
Here's the thing
in the system, and we're going to displace a lot of families. And
you
listen,
can't.
It's business. You gotta
give them nice severance packages and send them on. You can't change things regardless of how you talk about it, unless you're willing to accept that change. You can talk about this is what we want to do,
Action.
But if you bring in and your actions don't mesh with what you said you were going to do, it doesn't matter. Let me give you just a couple comments. G said he's good with Bo Nix, not Penix, but Bo Nix. Richie wants to know what part of the mechanics made Cam throw the ball high, and the only person to catch it would be the Jolly Green Giant. He threw off his back foot.
I was getting ready to say
which changed his he may have his elbow up, but he's throwing off his back foot. You got to step through the throw on your front foot.
And you got to work.
And I'm not even a quarterback.
Even on the deep ball, you got to project it up some. But we're talking about on like a 10-yard curl stop, out route, drag route, any of that. You can't lean back and throw the ball because your arm may be up here, but your weight's going back, and so you're naturally going to push
Yeah.
the ball.
Richie
Can't
said
do
the
that.
NCAA went to court yesterday over NIL and lost. He also read that there could be a settlement with the ACC and FSU. It also went on to say this could open the door for a package of FSU, Notre Dame to the Big Ten.
Yeah, they need to go. That's where they need to go.
Yeah, yeah. The let me back up here. Where to go? The only thoughts I have on that was I thought Notre Dame would have to join the ACC. No, nobody has to do anything anymore.
Yeah.
Andrew said, I'm not sure that I don't go with Jaden Daniels' route if I have to draft a quarterback in this draft, because honestly, he thinks it's one of the weakest quarterback classes. I'm seeing that. I don't know that it's the weakest. There's more quarterback choices. Now, I'm not saying they're all great. G said Lions to the Super Bowl. Milton said Steve Wilkes has been so disrespected. He's a better coach than 90% of the active coaches. Yeah.
Thank you, yes.
Richie said the 49ers defense did drop throughout the year. At about Game 7, they had a top 4 or 5 defense, but at the end of the year, the defense was ranked almost 20th. Still agree with 4, Richie said. The blame lays more on Shanahan.
It is. And I'll explain that part, too.
And here's the deal. Here's the deal. I said this, I was always really, really pissed at Dan Henning when he was the offensive coordinator with the Panthers.
Yeah.
And then people explained to me that Dan Henning's calls went through John Fox's headphones.
That's right, yeah.
Or went through John Fox's game plan.
Yeah, sure.
And so if he didn't agree with it, he would overrule it.
Right.
Much like Shanahan did calling the coverage off that Steve Wilkes had called.
Man, yeah, I still think they use that isolated incidents to make the point this is why we need to change. Okay. The head coach is the head coach. GM's the GM. They got a great thing going on out there, okay, in San Francisco. I get it. All right. And when I am being critical of what he has done, okay, I have a right to do that, and you know what? That doesn't make me right and him wrong.
No.
Okay? What I'm doing is I'm giving you a different take on, maybe some reasons they're not winning the Super Bowl or he hasn't been successful as a coordinator, or I say not successful. He hasn't hit the ultimate spot as a coordinator or as a head coach yet, okay? Yeah, it is difficult and all that, but that's your job, okay, and that's the way it is. The thing with the 49ers, that was a great point. I believe, was it Milton or Richie that talked about them sliding down after?
Richie.
Okay, that's a great point. So what you do is you go back and you look at the offensive production during that time, all right, and in that stretch of games versus, this is before playoffs, to what I'm talking about. All right, and you look at how quickly or how often they were scoring versus how much the defense was on the field. All right, and now anybody's going to tell you, and rightfully so, say, well, yeah, but it's still the defense's job to do this. Okay, that is true, but it has to be within the game plan of management. And when the offense in today's game is managing the game versus when Coach McCree and all those guys played, even, back in the 60s, right, at Maiden or at LR, or, even up through the 80s and early 90s, the defense was more able to set the tone because there wasn't as much of movement of the football in multiple areas of the field, right? Mm-hmm. So you kind of played a push game back and forth, and you had somebody like Coach McCree to, run the waggle or something and take off 90 yards down the field, right? That's the difference in the game. And so when you look at them in the playoffs, all right, and how things were, they were giving up a tremendous amount of points and nearly got beat by Green Bay. There were flaws and things that were in that, but you don't – what you don't normally do is you don't over-prepare. You prepare at a high level, but you don't over-prepare for an opponent that is not nearly where you are, okay? You prepare because you will fall to the level of your training, and in most cases you will win that game. You don't play the Green Bay Packers if it's the Super Bowl. You know that you're one and done like anybody else, but you expect to go out there and win, and you prepare at that level. And I can tell you that a few years ago we were playing West Lincoln at home, and this is relevant example. All right, they were driving down the field late in the game, and I told Will, I said, look, I said, based on our team, I can stop them here and have them kick a field goal because I can adjust my front to their unbalanced line, or we can go ahead and they're going to wind the clock down and beat us with a field goal by 3. Or I can go ahead and potentially let them score, let them go ahead and me not make these adjustments here at timeout, let them get the ball in the end zone and give us the ball back with a minute, with like 2 minutes left to go, and take it down and then, go for 2 for the win or whatever. I'm just giving an example, right? So, you have to kind of know, what you're going against and how you want to do it and then make decisions from that. So, yeah, you can look at analytics and say, and Richie's right, from an analytical standpoint, they were sliding and doing this and doing that. But there were things that were being done that they were not prepared for and not seen on film, all right, based on how quickly other things were going on. There were too many plays run. Right? And so it put the defense, they had that great defense, in jeopardy. Now, there's going to be some disagreement with that comment. I have no problem with that. But, based on my experiences and the things that I've seen and go back and look at these games, I go back and watch them. I watch them real quick. I go through all the plays and look how the flow of the game goes and things like that, just to analyze how the games go, right? And this is what I saw. The reason the Chiefs were so doggone good is Andy Reid is smart enough, all right, and way smarter. He's probably one of the greatest coaches ever lived and doesn't get the credit for it, right, because Belichick retired this year and, that kind of thing. But he is able to mesh his game plan with the defense, knowing that the defense might be a little emotional at times and give up 15 yards. Patrick offsets that.
Yep.
So he knows that's okay. And then how do they game plan going down and hold people to field goals where the Chiefs can score touchdowns when they need to? That's the difference. That's it. That's it. That's how it works.
Let me ask you one quick question, because I'm about out of talking because my lips are sore. His dad, Kyle Shanahan's dad, Mike Shanahan.
Yeah. Wow.
I was never that impressed with him because I think how he got his Super Bowls was one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play, and then finally had a running game where they could coordinate that between the two.
Yeah.
Because I don't think if he hadn't had those that he would have been a Super Bowl winning coach. He was not successful with the Oakland Raiders, even though it's a short time.
Yes,
that was a personality thing.
It was.
And he was not successful with the Redskins.
Well, I think those were at the time were two very dysfunctional situations. Where he got into Denver, there was a little bit more stability. That you had that trademark, quarterback like you're talking about. Their defense was very, very good with Steve Atwater and those guys. And I think what he was I do think that he is a great leader of men, right? And that he, given the right scenario and the right combination, would be able to maximize everyone's potential around him because of his stability. A lot of times in today's world, we're like, God, that's going to be a great fit for that team because that guy's a great play caller. That's what I hear on here. That's like reporting something first on Twitter and then it not being accurate in the end. Or so-and-so is going to be a great head coach because they're a great play caller. I really think that when I look at the great head coaches in the area, over the years, right, in the NFL, college football, whatever, I think of guys like, obviously Coach Brown, okay, Mike McCree, Randy Lohman, right, Dave Elder, okay, and I'm talking about over time, right?
Right.
And when you look back at those attributes, what I can tell you, and Coach McCree was also not only a head coach here, he's also an administrator. And Coach McCree was a great leader of people.
Right.
I feel like Coach Brown was a great leader of people.
Right.
Right. I feel like that, Randy Lohman, great leader of people. And I feel like, Dave Elder, obviously, right? Don Patrick.
Yep.
Nick Basil. Okay. And we can go on and on, with that. These are great leaders of people. All right, Linda Richards. Think about all the games that not only games she won in volleyball, but all the games she coached. And the standard
Copus,
that was
Bill
set.
Boss. Go back to the old timers.
We've been very fortunate, and we have good ones today, right, that are building that legacy.
Yeah.
But the one thing you've got to be, no matter what, is a great leader. In football of men, you got to be a great leader of people, right? You have to be able, you have to be able to do this. And I think Tomlin is, all right. I think that, I think the boy down in Miami's working his way on doing it.
McDaniels?
Yeah. I think he's working his way because he's very truthful, just in a new era sort of way, right, with his players.
Right.
They know about his alcoholism. They know he's not perfect. They laugh about, when he was coaching in the whatever league it was, that one of the guys that they won a championship and they were all out there that night or whatever, and the guy was dancing with his girl, and he went up and stole the girl, and that ended up being his wife. You know, they laughed. They tried to make a big deal out of that. And Mike McDaniel's like, well, I ended up with her. Why is that? Why are y'all trying to get?
Yeah.
But the point is, Shanahan's a great leader of men. Steve Wilkes is a great leader of men.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to have a head coach, that's what you just need a great leader of people, Lanny.
Mm-hmm.
And because people long for leadership and direction, because it gives them stability. And when they have stability, their worries are not there because they know the right things are being done for the right reasons.
Well,
and we're unfortunately we're not seeing that with all these promotions of people that have no life experience or very little, but yet they're a good play caller. That they can grow in leadership skills, but it's going to be very bumpy because you have to have life experience. You have to have those failures, those mistakes, those terrible mistakes, those terrible things in misjudgment. You have to have all of those so you know how to correct it to improve yourself to be a great leader of people.
Now, here's the thing, and I'll say this, and since I know that Andrew's out there, this will be a great closer here.
I got to ride in the car with him for 4 hours a day, so don't.
I don't care.
Don't do too much.
I don't care. I agree with what you're saying, and that is something that is tremendously important and a high characteristic of Dabo.
Yes.
The problem is you've got to not only be that, but you got to be able to get out of your own way.
Well,
that's where I think Kyle Shanahan's having some problems. He is. I don't think anybody doubts his ability or what he can accomplish and all those type of things, creativity. But sometimes you can't get out of your own way to get the common goal to accomplish.
This is the problem I got with that too. It looks like he's using that as an excuse of why they didn't win the Super Bowl.
Yes,
that's what it looks like to me. Okay. And that's the problem I got.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
Well, I got to make this change right now. We got look, dude, look.
Already went there, honey. Thanks for anyway.
Look, you got to. No.
Milton says nobody plans to fail; they fail to plan. That is correct. That is exactly correct.
Bingo.
Have a great day. As far as I know, we'll be back here on Thursday,
Yep.
And we'll see you guys in. And maybe, just maybe my lips will go down and I can halfway talk again. I don't know. Until then. Have a great day. Dodge the rain. See you.